Hi, this is Angela Clark from APQS Raleigh and Threadwaggle Quilting, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some information on something that I've been collaborating with Heidi Patterson and Barbara Mayfield on. This is a document that Heidi has written for all of our Quilt Path users that goes over how to use some new features in version 5. Specifically, it's going to go over multi-placement and using two-point designs. So what she says at the top of hers is you will use new features in Quilt Path version 5, Insta-Place and multi-placement to stitch grids with point-to-point designs, often referred to as line dancing. Each pattern is placed individually and stitched out continuously with no jump stitches. Once the first pattern is placed, you will place the endpoints of each additional design. Okay, so the whole idea behind this is that we are going to place our first pattern, and then after that, all we have to do is tell Quilt Path where the next endpoint is, and it's going to join a bunch of point-to-point designs together. Now, to do this, I've created some designs that you can download off of my website, which is threadwaggle.com. So these new designs that I've created are to be used in conjunction with this training material that Heidi wrote, or you can actually use them for anything you would like. If I go into Select and Sew, which is how we're going to be placing this, the first thing it's going to ask me is to set a safe area, which I haven't done yet. So I'm going to go ahead and set that real quick. And I know it gets really close to you. Sorry about that. Okay, so now we have a safe area set. And then the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go to where I have saved my designs for this training. So I'm going to go into the patterns. I actually have a training folder, and then I have a bunch of designs sitting here. The designs that are available on my website are the arc and one of the parabolas. I didn't spell parabola right on one of them. Oops. Happy is also up there. And then if I go into this one, there's also a grid and a flying geese design. These two designs are there so that you can practice on practice cloths, so that you don't have to have a quilt. So my quilt right now is a solid piece of black fabric. That is what is on my frame. And I'm going to want to be placing things in a grid. So normally I would have piecing to be able to see that, but I'm not going to be able to see that on my practice cloth. So I want to be able to print a grid onto my practice cloth so that I can stitch my designs, right? So I'm going to do that by going into this grid, okay? And I'm going to change to a 1-point setting because I only need 1 point to set this. I'm going to use the top left corner. So I want to use 1 point, and then I'm going to choose corner, right? Oops, that's center. Let's actually choose corner. And it's going to put the little gray node up in the top left corner of my design. So that's what I'm going to be setting off, is that gray node. The next thing I want to do is give this a size. I'm currently quilting on a 2022 Lenny. So I have about 16 inches of quiltable space. So I need to know what size my quiltable space is so I know how big I can do my grid. I think I'm going to want my little grid things to be, let's say, 2 inches big. So that would make this a 10 by 10 design. Because I'm using 1 point, I can type in a size. So I'm going to say I want my design to be 10. It's going to be 10 by 10 because my aspect ratio is locked. So it resized it for me, and all I have to do is move my long arm to where I want it to place that corner, and then touch on that corner. It's going to turn that little node green, and that tells me that it has placed the corner. Now all I have to do is hit quilt, right? Because it's set, I'm ready to sew it out. Okay? So I'm going to move my long arm a little bit closer to me, and then I'm going to tell it I want it to pull the bobbin. I did needle up, needle down. I'm putting my thread underneath my foot so that I have both my top and my bottom thread up at the top. And then I'm ready to just hit sew. And it's going to sew out this design. So we are done quilting our grid. I'm also going to want to quilt one of the geese flight. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to select a pattern. And this time I want to do geese flight. So this is going to let me be able to practice putting things in point to point, going up the geese. We're going to leave it that height, and I'm still going to use my 1 point and just move my long arm up, maybe right here. Say, that's where I want that corner to be. And I didn't set my safe area big enough. So I'm going to say, okay. And I'm going to go ahead and reset my safe area real quick. So that's what happens when you do it and you're on your, and you're filming at the time. You don't always do it the way you meant to. So I'm going to come back to the toolbox down here and I'm going to scroll down until I see set safe area, tap that, tell it I want to reset my safe area. And this time I'm going to set it bigger and set it up here and then set it way over here. Okay, so now it should, let's see if I can place it now. There we go, now it's in the area. So now I want to quilt this one. And then I've got both of my designs ready to, sew into. So I'm going to tap on that, grab my thread, and then just hit quilt. And I'm going to hit sew. It's going to move to the start point. I'm not really worried about it. This is practice cloth. I'd move to start point or bobbin pull on a real project, but it's not as essential on this. Okay, we're going to let this one quilt. Now I have both of the shapes on my practice cloth, so I can place in them. Now, if I wanted a box to quilt around this, I wouldn't do a 1 point setting, okay? I would do that by doing, setting it as a block instead of setting it as a 1 point. So I would mark my practice cloth the size I wanted my design to be, and then I would be able to stitch the ditch and stitch the design. You can't do that with 1 point, but you can do that on block. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If I was going to set this to fit in my grid that I have on, that I quilted out earlier, right? So it's going to change the size when I do this too. But I'm going to go ahead and go down to block, stretch, and I'm just going to use my grid. So I'm going to say that's where the top one goes. And then I'm going to pull my long arm down to the bottom right-hand corner of my grid and say, that's where that corner needs to go. So it sized it. It changed the size of the design, which is fine, but it would let me quilt the ditch. If I tap on ditch 2 over here, I can do the ditch and the design at the same time just by having both of those chosen, and then I go to quilt and you're going to see it would have both of them. So there really wasn't a reason for me to digitize the line around my geese because I can easily address that later if I need to. It's pretty simple, guys. Okay, so now I'm going to go back, and that's kind of the setup. I want you to start out with something that looks, I'm going to zoom in and try to rotate this so you can see what I'm doing. I've got a grid and I've got the geese. Once you have your semicircle sized the way you want it to and orientated the right way, you're going to want to start placing it. So there's some things that I do when I'm doing Insta-Place and multi-placement with 2 point or point-to-point designs that I feel like make it a little easier for me. So I want to show you the settings that I use. Down here on the bottom left, I put a check in my show grid option right here. I also put a check in the Insta-Place option. And then over on the right-hand side, I switch to multi-placement. Okay, so those are the settings that I start with this. I am going to use 2-point fit to do this, which is the same setting that Heidi is using. That would be on page 5 of her document. When you are doing this, these are some things that it's important to remember. Insta-Place, the whole idea behind this is it's going to lock onto a node. And it's going to let you repeatedly set that node. So to start out with, it's actually on the start point. I'm going to use this zoom in bar up here a little bit. So I zoomed in and then I'm going to pull. So this is in your space where you can see it. This little design here, the start point has the yellow circle around it. So it is the one that is being controlled at the moment. So if I come down and I've actually placed it, but I'm going to place it one more time. I'm going to bring this over and I'm going to scroll my screen so you can, my camera so you can see my screen. And I'm going to place that dot, right? To place the endpoint, I would then do select and I'm going to come over 2 grids real quick so it gets bigger for me and place the endpoint. Now, if I come back over and say, oh, I only meant to do one of my grids that's been sewn on my quilt, I can come back over and I don't have to tap on that grid, that point. I can tap anywhere in the display area and it's going to resize to that size. So the idea behind this is you're going to place the first start point and then after this, you're not going to have to place another start point. And we're going to then want to isolate the endpoint. So we're going to want the yellow circle around the endpoint. Okay. When you do multi-placement and 2-point, you get a 5th button called Next. That next button, that's your point-to-point feature. Here's the beauty of the next button. I've placed what I wanted to do. Then I'm going to hit Next. I'm going to move my machine to the next place, which will be straight up. And then I'm going to place again. And then I'm going to hit Next. And I'm going to move my machine again. And place again. And hit Next. And it might maybe want to zoom out just a little bit so you can see what I'm about to do. Right? So if you are looking at your educational material, I have now gone all the way to page 8. On this so far, right? Well, she was doing a square to show you how to do it. I'm actually going to go ahead and keep doing a grid for you to show you how to do it. So we're going to keep going. And what I'm showing you now, you're going to see a picture of on page 12. Okay. So the whole idea behind doing grid work is I'm following my grid on my surface, right? So I'm going to go over to the right now and hit Next, right? Move. Place Next, come back up here, I'm moving again, place Next, okay? Now, I can also use my finger mouse to do this. If I move my screen, I can click on my finger mouse, there we go, and I clicked on my mouse and it moved it. All your finger mouse is doing is acting as a repeater, and the only thing it's going to do is the select button at this point. So Insta-Place was designed so that if you're using something like the clicker or the finger mouse, right, it will keep repeating that select button. The program understands what we're doing with the finger mouse, so it's going to just work with you. You saw me doing it without using my finger mouse. It's not only for the finger mouse, right, but it does work really well with your finger mouse. So I'm ready to hit Next because I can place the next one, move over to the right, and then click and hit Next, up, click, Next towards me, click, Next to the right, click, Next, up, click, Next, down, click, Next to the right. And then just to show you that it's still going to do it without it, I'm going to hit Select it, Next, move up, and then select, Next. And this time I'm moving to the left, right? Because I'm done with my first row. So I'm going to be going back across my first row, hitting next, move, place, next, move, place, next, right? And I haven't been trying to really hit my corners really well, and you can tell because they're not joined up here. If I'm being really careful and really accurate, it looks great, right? So this is one design you can use. This is probably one of the most common designs. This is orange peel. Another one you can use, I'm going to go ahead and clear out of this. So I'm going to hit the remove all, and I'm going to select a different design. So I'm going to go ahead and select arc and say OK, and do the same thing. So I need to make sure that my start point is what's selected, and it is. So I'm going to choose that, and then go to my next point, right? You can't see it, right? But it's not circling this one, and we're doing a 2-point, so it has to be doing the end point. And I'm going to tap that one, right? And it's the same idea where I just keep hitting next, move, next, move, next, place, oops, and I'm just going to do 2 blocks to show you what I'm doing. So this would be continuous curve. Okay, and there's literally thousands of designs out here that you can use doing point-to-point designs. A lot of websites, when you go up to purchase designs, will have point-to-point designs listed on them so that you can tell which ones will do this and will follow the line on the outside of your design. Okay, so now let's talk about the geese. Okay, because the geese, I could go around my circle, or I could go around my triangle and do continuous curve, and I could do it continuously up this geese. But what Heidi is trying to show you in her document is this, right? Whoops, there we go. Is this trying to go from the base of your geese up to the point and keep traveling. So let's see how that would work. I'm going to go ahead and go to Happy, which is this design right here. Oops, I need to remove all. Happy's there. I just can't see it. It's right there. So I removed what I had already placed. It will let you change designs and keep placing, which is great when you're doing continuous curve, because if you're doing a 9-patch, a lot of times you're doing one design in the background color and a different design in the dark color, let's say. So, you know, you're doing 5 of your squares with continuous curve, and then you're putting a fancy block or triangle in the other 4 squares. You can switch back and forth and it will keep it all, which that is awesome. Okay, so now let's look at putting this design into a flying geese. So I'm going to move over to my first flying geese, and I'm going to give me just a second because I'm going to back this away a little bit so that you can see a little bit better. Unfortunately, I can't get the top and the design in on the same time. So we're going to start out looking here, and then I'm going to show you what I did again with my, we're going to start out up here, and then I'm going to show you again on the practice cloth. Getting the double shot where I'm shooting on both at the same time is kind of hard. So what I'm going to do is come up to the center of the bottom of my flying geese, and I'm going to mark my start point. Right? So it's set that where that is. Then I'm going to hit select so it's isolated the point at the top, and I'm going to move up to the top of my geese, and I'm going to say that's where I need the top of it. So you can see that it has reduced the size of the geese. Now let me show you one more thing real quick. I want to be able to see on my screen what's actually happening, right? So there is another trick I can use to do that. If I come up to the top and choose plugins, and then I choose the marking tool, I can mark where my geese are, right? So if I add a mark, I'm going to do it the same way that I did it when I designed it, because it's makes it continuous, right? See the geese coming on here? And I'm just going to do a couple of them so you can see what I'm talking about, right? Now let's do 3 because we're going to alternate in just a second so we can show you that. And then come back down. And this really is when I would use the mouse because I don't have to move my hands off of my keyboard. It's just going to keep hitting that add button because that's the last thing that I clicked on, and it's super, super quick, guys. Okay, so now you can see that my geese is actually inside of the shape on my quilt. To quilt the next one, I'm going to go back up. I'm going to go back up and start again, right? Because we're going to go back to our placements, go back up here, and it let me hit next. I wasn't sure if it was going to let me hit next again or not, but it did. So that's a great feature, right? That I can decide halfway through I need to see things better, and it's going to let me see things better. I did not know it would do that. That's pretty cool. Hit next again. See it building up on my screen. Let me rotate this just a little bit so you can see a little bit better. It's building up on my screen. I'll do one more so you can see. Right? Hit next again. And there we go. But let's say I want that one to be flipped. I want every other one to be flipped. Because this is designed like a pantograph, when I first brought it in, my start point was on the left and my end point was on the right. That means that I can flip this using this bottom flip button and easily get it to switch directions for me. So let's go ahead and remove all and say yes. Start that bottom one again. I'm going to go from here. I need to go back, so I'm doing my start point this time. And then I'm going to come up and I'm going to mark the end point for the first one. Just use my select button and then do my thing so that that's in the right place. Then hit next. Now I want to do this next design, so I can flip it, right, move up to where I want and hit next. And I can flip it again and come up and hit next. So super quick and easy, guys. This is part of the great thing with version 5. The whole idea behind what the changes that they've made in version 5 is to make things that are quicker and easier for you and more intuitive. Now, if you've been with us since 2013 on our Quilt Path journey, right, we've trained you to not be quite as intuitive. So things may not come as quickly as they would for someone who is brand new in the program. But once you get the hang of it, it is so much easier and so much quicker. For me to do this in version 4 or version 3, I would have actually digitized my 5 geese that I wanted so I could place them all at once, right? And then it might not hit exactly where I wanted it to place. So this is just so much quicker. It's going to quilt where I want it to quilt. And it's going to look beautiful. Now, the other side about this that I have not told you yet is, let's say I wanted it to quilt those marks, right? You can tell Quilt Path to do that too. If you have, I would put lots of dots. I would have added lots and lots of points in there to make sure that it was actually following my ditch. If you've done that so that it's actually following what's on your quilt top, all you have to do when you get done placing all your geese is to come over here and say, I want you to stitch my marks. It asks you if you want to close the loop, and I'm going to say yes. So it's a continuous design. And now when I hit quilt, it'll do the geese and the marks. Both are going to stitch out. So there are some jump points on it. I think if I optimized it, I did my, okay, so here's why it's doing it. I could have captured my marks first, and it would have done the marks first, and then turned around and done my design. It's doing opposite. So really all I need to do in this case is change my outline to stitch first, and I would do that by making sure that there's a 1 in this field right here, The number between the minus and the plus sign is the number you want your segment to change to. I want this number 2 to be my first segment, so I just tap on it and it took care of my jump stitch. So there's lots of different ways you can do things. This is just one way that the program works. I'm going to go ahead and stitch some of these out so that you can see stitching out also, but I wanted to do the stuff on the screen so that you could see that first. So this time I'm going to stitch out parabola. So I'm going to clear everything that was on my screen. I know you can't see it, but I'm clearing everything that's on my screen. I'm going to go ahead and bring in parabola. Okay. And then I am going to be marking off of my points. Now, if you have a laser light post that's up front where you can move your laser light up, that's my preferred way to do this, but I don't have one on my new machine yet. So, and I wanted to do this on my new machine. So I actually have a quilt loaded on the other machine. So, I'm sneaking my needle down so that I can get pretty accurate with it. And I'm going to mark the first point, and then I'm going to pull over and choose select to mark the second point, and then I'm going to hit next, move away from myself, place that and hit next, move towards myself, place and hit next, move to the right, place next, move up, place next, move back towards myself, place next, move to the right, place next, move up, place next, move towards myself, place next, move to the right, place next, move up, place next, move towards myself, place next, move to the right, place next. Now I'm done with this row, so I'm going to move away from myself, place next, and I need to come across the right. So I'm going to go all the way across the top of my building, place next, come up here, do place next, to the next point, place next, and place next, move again, place next. Now, if I wanted to keep going and I want to do the next row with something different, I can come up to select pattern, and this time I'm going to do arc. So this one should arc a little bit more. And I need to place my first point because I haven't placed this one, so I'm going to hit place, right? And then do select to get to the end. That's the only downside of switching designs, is you do have to place your start point again. Remember to hit select so that you can go and start, your you can start doing your place next, move, place next, move towards you, right, place next, move to the right, place next, move away from you, place next. And really on these two designs, they don't look that much different on the screen. It would be really hard for someone to tell the difference with them together. I'm going to go ahead and scroll you up and show you what I'm talking about. See, this one's a little more up and down. That one is very smooth when it's going. They're pretty similar, guys, but it's just going to stitch where I tell it to stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and finish out this row real quick. Just doing place next, back over to the right, place next, up, place next, towards me, place next, to the right, place next, up, place next, towards me, place next, to the right, place next. Now I can't get real accurate here because my face would be in front of the camera, because typically I get pretty close to the surface of my quilts to make sure that I'm doing it the way I need to. That being said, it's going to be pretty darn close when I get it done, guys. And just to show you that you can use pretty much anything you want, I'm going to come back in here and choose select pattern again. I'm just going to go to a triangle. And I am going to use 13, which is a standard Quilt Path triangle, guys. I'm going to start doing the next row. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to place my start point, hit select so that my end point is now chosen. And I'm going to do place next, come up, place next, back down towards me, place next, over to the right, place next, away from me, place next, towards me, place next, to the right, place next, away from me, place next, towards me, place next. Okay, and if I zoom in so you can see it, an entirely different shape, guys. So Heidi and I are really excited about this. We can't wait to see what you do. Please post pictures on the Facebook group so that we know that you're using the educational information that we're giving you. We're really excited about doing things together and having really good written documentation and videos that you can use as well. Once again, this is Angela Clark. I'm with APQS Raleigh. I'd like to thank Heidi Patterson, who is one of our reps out of Idaho, and she is also a Quilt Path educator, for writing all the documentation. And then thank Barb Mayfield from APQS Northwest for hosting a Quilt Path camp back in June, where I was showing someone how to do this, and Heidi and Barb and I were all together. So sometimes great things happen when we can all get in the same room together. I strongly encourage you guys to take classes and take classes with many of our educators. We have awesome education within APQS, and as a team, we really do want you to learn from all the different educators that we have out there. Hope you have a great day quilting, and I look forward to seeing your pictures soon.